Hello, everybody. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. I butchered the intro, but it doesn't matter because we're back here for another Always Almost There day after show live. We got Jive Goose 2 days in a row. That's how you know they played a good show. And boy, did they ever. We have
we're going to start the fluffing now? We're going to do it in the intro.
Oh, of course. This whole pod is just going to be fluffing. So Neil is here to be crabby and cranky. To offset how excited we are about what happened last night. Right, Neil?
No, that's not at all my role here. My role is to, just remind the folks on Always Almost There Goose podcast that we are music journalists who have objective opinions about music. We don't go overboard. We do hasty rank whole entire shows before we even begin reviewing the show. I don't know. That's what we used to be.
Weren't you at Red Rocks in October?
You've watched this show before, haven't you?
weren't you at Red Rocks Night 2 in October? Because I distinctly remember you participating in lots of hasty ranking after that one.
Yeah. Listen, man, this isn't Nom.
This isn't Nom.
Someone has to give a fuck about the rules here.
All right, let's bring on our guest today. We've got our very, very good friend, Brian Brinkman, joining us today. Hi, Brian.
Could you say my name correctly this time? It is Brian Segway Brinkman.
Well, then, only Brian is eligible for this podcast. Brinkman is a separate entry.
I would read that as Brian into Brinkman.
Brian into Brinkman. I like that. How are you guys doing?
Phenomenal. Just got home.
Easy. I also just got home.
Yeah.
I have been home. I had a day yesterday that was packed from 5 a.m. until 11 p.m. and involved big item drop-offs. It involved dance class. It involved gymnastics. It involved baseball. And it involved Goose. That played a good show, right?
I noticed your dance moves last night. I had no idea that you were like taking the classes though. That's awesome.
12 to 12:20. It's me and my daughter taking a free form jazz dance. It's amazing stuff.
That's awesome.
I was going to say, do you ever get to suggest, like, hey, can we play this segment of this Madhuvan so she can practice?
She was really upset. We brought our son to the show last night, and she was very upset she couldn't go. When I was playing Goose before we left the house, she was, like, dancing around the house almost to prove, like, guys, I can hold up. I can do it.
That's amazing. Well, tell us about it was your son's first show last night. Tell us about, how he was doing going into the show. Was he excited? Were you guys excited to be there with him?
Yeah, we brought him. We've taken him to we took him to like Billy and the Kids a couple of years ago. We took him to Trey at Red Rocks, and he never made it through a full show. He's almost 9. I really want to take him to my 100th show at Dick's this year. And so to get him there, we made a deal with him that he had to stay until the end of some jam band show. Mm-hmm. And we had an extra ticket for Goose. We figured going in on night 1, like the lawn was really spacious. The sound was nice up there. There was just like a bunch of spots to hang out in. So we decided to bring him. He was killer. He was a trooper. We got him a shirt that won't fit him until he's 12 or 13 years old. But by then it will look very cool that he was at a 2024 Goose show. I don't know, man. He was killer. He had an awesome time. He was dancing around. He was having fun. He said today that his favorite song of the night was Madhuvan, which I was
Smart
like,
kid.
Right answer, dude. You knew you were listening. And then for the last half of the set, I sat on the lawn with him napping in my lap, and it was one of the best music experiences I could ever have. It was legitimately, not to fluff too much. You guys are fluffing the tour, the show. I'm going to fluff that it was one of the top 5 nights of my life. And taking it to big extremes.
Well, so Neil's going to be the first to say that you should not have enjoyed yourself that much, and it actually
that's not what I'm
not
here
one
for.
of the top 5 nights of your life, Brian. That's recency bias. And a week from now, you're going to look at your son and you're going to be like, yeah, I was wrong. That wasn't actually that great.
I'm going to sit him down and be like, let's reconstruct.
Yeah.
You actually didn't have that much fun, and the most fun is actually in your dreams. It happened in 2021. You just weren't there.
Yeah.
So that's the way it's going to go.
Neil calls that Colorado dad bias.
Yeah.
And we got Kev here. Hashtag late Kev.
Kev came.
Kev is here. Hi, Kev. You're muted. Hashtag muted Kev. You're still muted. All right.
Oh
Vexed
man,
by
Vexed by technology. Here we are.
really-
It wouldn't be Kev if this wasn't
We're-
happening. Actually, I feel great about this.
You're not muted now, but we still can't hear you.
Yeah,
So while you troubleshoot.
it's the
Uh,
Android.
So Neil, you slept through the show again last night.
I didn't sleep through the whole show. I fell asleep after Drive. I made it through Drive, and then I don't know what the hell happened. I've been like really, really tired. And yesterday, I think, according to my Apple Health, I took like 21,000 steps, and it was just enough. It was enough, like I was done after that drive. And that drive, let me tell you, is a really dreamy drive. When we get there, let's talk about it. But
Yeah.
it can make you drift off to slumber for
Yeah.
sure.
We had a great pre-show yesterday as well. We hit the lot, with D, who is en route, getting back home now, so couldn't join us. With Haps and the whole crew, we were posted up. We were in pretty much the same spot as we were on the first night. I think we were like 2 rows further up. Last night had a little bit of space. D didn't have to fight for more room in our area. There was a good block of seats the row behind us for him to vibe out in for most of the night. So he was comfortable, which was very important. But we had a great time, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I mean, heady lot scene for sure over there by the
Lot 13.
somebody's corporate headquarters back there, I'm sure, and their little parking garage. No, but we had good people. So and we had shade, and yeah, we had a great time. I was kind of ready to go. I wanted to get in there and get started.
And we did. Let's dive into the show.
Yeah, we knew this was going to be a big one, so I think we were all. I think as vibes were high, as they say.
As they say. And Brian, tell me about the vibes. Tell me about them vibes. The first half of the first set, Turn Clouds, Look Out Cleveland, Lead Up, Cali Magic. How'd you feel about this opening?
I liked half. I didn't like other half, but it may be unpopular opinion. 2 of my least favorite Goose songs were played in the first half of the first set. So I just, dealt with those. We figured out our spot. We were down pretty close initially, and my son was like, I can't handle all the noise and all the Peter like right in front of me. So he moved up to the lawn. We got settled by the time that Lookout Cleveland started up, which is a cover I've always wanted to hear. I'm a big California Magic fan. I will stan Fish's Ocelot very, very heavily. It's a deeply unpopular opinion, but I love that song. And I say that only because I think of Cali Magic and Ocelot as your mid first set Grateful Dead summer, just kind of like cruising semi ballads. Like they just kind of like lope along in the middle of the first set. Nothing crazy is ever going to happen, but it just kind of gives you the vibes. And if you're ever looking for a vibe song, this is one of them. So dug those 2. Turn Clouds and Lead Up happened, and I'll let you guys speak on that.
I feel like I didn't know that you didn't like Lead Up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who doesn't Lead Up?
I was aware of this. I was saying this last night. I was like waiting for Brian's reaction to Lead Up.
My reaction to Lead Up was it would absolutely crush as like the peak moment in a melodramatic scene in the TV show This Is Us from the 2010s. Look, it's emotionally manipulative in the strongest way possible. I'm personally not here for it, but I understand that there are a lot of other people that are.
And I would like to take that opportunity to point out that if anybody has not seen Madhuvan's Lead Up music video, go find that. It's on Twitter, it's elsewhere, but it's a work of art. And that's, yeah. Ooh.
Matthew Ross makes a semi-decent point here. It's debatable at this point, and I have accepted that there's probably some badness at Goose here for me. It is me. It's not the band.
There you go. Kev, do we have audio? We do not have audio. That is unfortunate. But Kev's here. And that's
can
what matters.
Kev mime what he's trying to say?
Yeah, Kev, can we have like a thumbs up, thumbs down? What did you think of the first half of the first set? You were having a good time?
Do you have a small whiteboard?
Oh, write it on the outside of the cooler.
Is it 1.5 thumbs up? I think that was.
Yeah, 1.5 thumbs
the
up.
Folks
All
watching at home, 1.5 thumbs up.
There we go. Thank you. B, what did you think of the first 4 songs here?
So, it's funny because, I agree with Brian in a sense that, I think we agree that it wasn't the fire start.
Sure.
Maybe that we were expecting, right? So Maybe we don't agree on each individual song, but yeah, it was Turn Clouds. I always like seeing it. I didn't know that it had the oomph that maybe this show that I was expecting from this show, right? They're going to make up for all this later. So it's a moot point. You know what I mean? But
Totally.
in the moment, not knowing what was to come, I was like, okay, Turn Clouds. Look Out Cleveland. It's I like all the band covers, but I wouldn't say this is my favorite of the band covers. So again, I think at this point I was thinking, okay, well, maybe let's not get crazy and do a 20-minute Look Out Cleveland here. Let's maybe knock this out. So I was kind of happy that it didn't go on too long. Had a nice little jam. So it was good to see. Definitely good to see. Lead up. Now here's where I kind of started getting fired up. So I'm a big fan. I think it really energizes the crowd, and I think we talked about this a lot last year after the Red Rock shows. It's because it was a much newer song back then, and I felt like it was a big sing along, which I think surprised me last year how new it was. So yeah, was super stoked to see that, and then California Magic. I'm not a hater. I kind of agree with you, Brian, and that it's a nice flowy, the sun's still out, daytime set, kind of jam. So so I think after we'll turn it over to to Neil next, but I think after those four though, we were thinking, okay, well, we got to get this going. So.
Yeah, man. So it's funny. Yesterday, a friend of the pod, Adam, was saying that a few of these shows on this tour felt like Electric Arabelo, and that first set, very Electric Arabelo. I mean, like he nailed it when he said it. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's perfect. You just get like a whole bunch of songs in a row. Doesn't really feel like Goose. I mean, I think Turn Clouds is a little extended. So, I mean, I think it was like pretty close to 13 minutes, which is crazy for like a song.
It was around the same length as Look Out Cleveland, which is really interesting.
Yeah. And then Look Out Cleveland, when that came around, I was like, oh, this is it. We're finally going to get Cotter to take a verse. And I was so excited. I was like, there's got to be somewhere. Like, I know everybody already has their pre-assigned roles. They've been doing this cover already. But there was a part of me was just hoping they were going to squeeze him in a Jeff spot maybe this time or something. And it didn't happen. You do get Cotter singing in the show, but not yet in a solo singing role, So it takes, I guess it's going to take a while before that happens. But I thought this was our chance. So I was excited when they started playing that. But yeah, the rest of the set just kind of plays out with song. So if I fall asleep in this set, like you can't really blame me.
Well, but also you fell asleep after it got really good. That's why I was going to say if you fell asleep during Cali. It's like, okay, like, sure, I get that. You were tired on the couch, but like you fell asleep after Drive. Like, but yeah, I don't have anything else to add there. It was, I took the opportunity. I had to sneak out to go to the bathroom at some point. I took the opportunity during Cali. I felt that there wasn't going to be a better opportunity after that. And Brian, I saw you on the way out. You said hi from the lawn, and then I'm as I was walking back from the bathroom, Cali ended and they started Drive, and I went into like an all-out sprint. I stopped only to like wave to Brian and be like, let's fucking go, and then ran back down to our seats as Drive was getting started. But I was so excited about that. I think this was one of the songs that we were talking about before the show. Really expected to see a Drive, and this is the second Drive of the year, both of which have been over 30 minutes long, which is pretty damn cool. And this Drive is spectacular. I definitely, it was way better on re-listen than I thought it was in the moment. Not that I didn't like it in the moment. I just thought the jamming felt way more engaging to me on re-listen today. You have that initial dual guitar kind of type 1 fiery section, and then you go into this initial bliss that they build around this kind of ascending lick that's kind of like the ending of Time to Flee for a while. And then you get into this like factory fiction-y jam for the last 5 minutes or so, which was like just really, really cool. And, continuing the trend from night one of these really amazing and patient bliss jams, which was really cool. I know we were looking for some darker stuff, which we got obviously later on. But I thought this drive was amazing. Brian, what did you think?
I agree on all points. I think this is the third time I've seen Drive. The last one I got was Goose Night 1, which has a really cool, like 2-minute, dark, heavy, riffy section. Peter kind of dancing across the stage. That's one a good buddy of mine. We always kind of go back and forth on how much we love that. And so I was really stoked to see it because I think to your guys' point, like we're like 25, like 40 minutes into the show at this point in time. We kind of know that we need something. One of Goose's longtime strengths has been the mid first set jam, and it's a continued staple feature for why I go back to listen to this band so much. When Drive kicked off, knowing recent history, I kind of figured we were in for something. Knowing how quickly and how well they dove off the deep end with Jive Lee the night before, it felt to me like we were in for something really cool there. And it was just one of those. It doesn't go dark. It doesn't go deep. It has a lot of moves that, feel just like well worn for Goose, going kind of into these chordal blissy moments that build into a really big peak. I think my biggest takeaway with that though is that it felt really unique in the moment. Like it felt like they were using moves that they're comfortable with, but they weren't just like going through the motions. It felt pretty alive in a lot of ways. And Ryan and Neil will know this very well. I'm deeply opposed to the attendance bias review of jams. Like in the moment is something you get to experience, and everyone's going to listen to this jam on tape for a long period of time, but I'd be remiss if I wouldn't say that like the sunset during this drive just perfectly matched the music. And it was kind of one of those moments where you just kind of like stand back, take it in. The band just felt like they were playing, to the setting sun at that point in time in a really beautiful way. But I don't think it will, like, I'll listen back to this. I don't think that this will be a jam that you look back on as, kind of a step forward for the band, but it sometimes does need to be. This band plays for 30 minutes really well often.
There you go. B, what did you think?
So super psyched. First of all, to get Drive. I mean, it was one of the songs that I really wanted to see and was really hoping they were going to play. This I'm in the same boat. I think in the moment, and when we say that, I mean, I think sometimes when you're at the show, Brian, you're talking about like, oh yeah, it's like that fiery peak, that bliss peak. You could call that maybe sometimes going through the motions or whatever. And but then on the flip side, like when you don't get that, sometimes in the moment, it's like, it felt like it never really like over the hump or something. But on re-listen, I really felt so that first big jam where, and you mentioned it, Ryan, with your words. I was calling it like a climbing chromatic progression. Mm-hmm. And I really like how it didn't really go into that huge peak. It was more like, it's kind of like a full band swell,
Totally.
Just kind of slowly swelled. And yeah, I really liked how that sounded. And I did very much appreciate that in the moment. And then they kind of slowed everything back down and then built up through this, kind of Factory Fiction-esque jam.
We really, right at the end, we really thought for a second that they were actually going to go into it, which would have been.
It sounded like they might, it was close.
I think they were toying with the idea. But one of the things, when you talk about, the kind of the way they executed that peak, I noticed the last couple of nights, especially Rick has been using feels like a lot of reverb when he's soloing in these bliss jams, and that makes his playing kind of blend in with the rest of the band a little bit more, as opposed to, looking back on 2023, Bliss jams where it's very, Rick forward, Rick centric, and his tone, cutting through everything else. And I think that really lends itself to this full band jamming that we've been seeing so much of lately, where they sound more like one organism because, first of all, I mean, Rick's tone is a little bit softer now, obviously, which sounds amazing. But I think these layers of reverb that he's adding to it, and it might not just be reverb, could be some chorus stuff. I don't know. But whatever he's doing to give it that extra body and background is really, really working out for them.
And but the only other thing I wanted to say about the drive is, I just kind of wanted to echo the sentiment about, the fact that two 30-minute drives, and, we wondered if we were going to see, some longer jams. And yeah, I mean, we're definitely getting them, and they've all been really, really good. It wasn't too long ago, I think 2022, we got some really lengthy jams that, not everyone loved, right? I kind of feel like this year they're crushing every one of these jams. If they take it deep, then they're knocking it out of the park. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of wasted time. There's not a lot of segments that you might want to fast forward through. I mean, I feel like they're really, really executing these extended jams really, really well.
Yeah, not much to add about this one. Although I do like the context, Brian, that you brought up, which, I wouldn't have realized because I never actually watched the video when I'm watching these things. I just kind of listen. That the sun was setting while the jam was playing. And like, this is like a Goose thing for some reason. When they play outdoors, not all the time, but if they get a good sunset going, you sometimes get a pretty spectacular jam. I'm thinking back to like the Dylan Bourne is a really good example. Also the Western Sun from Perry back in 2021, also really notably played during a sunset. So, I mean, it's interesting that inspires jams in this band like these. So that is actually a pretty cool thing, taking the whole attendance bias thing out of it, but just making a note of the fact that they just drop a 30-minute drive in the set.
Casually.
And in a way, and we were talking about this yesterday, I took some heat for saying, like, where are the jams? And then here they are, right? That really colors how you feel about this whole entire show after like a pretty songy first set. Then you get this monster right in there, and it's really good. I really, really liked it in the moment. And I noticed a lot of folks were like, yeah, I don't know if I felt as good about it at the show as I did when I listened to it a second time, which is interesting. Because I think the second time I listened to it, it also just kind of jumped up the charts for me.
What are you fluffing?
I just want to say,
Brian had enough. It's like, I won't take this.
I didn't know what I was going to say, but he didn't like it. I have to say again, the where are the jams, and I don't mean this to be to offend you in any way, Neil, but I really liked the jams night one. But I know what you mean in terms of like, we didn't get the 30-minute jams or whatever, but you do always have to remember that when you get a 22-minute Jive Lee, that's not incredibly different from a 30-minute Name the Other Song.
Right.
True.
Right. So we did get a really long jam night one, as well as some other spectacular short jams. But
sure.
Can I ask you guys a question about all this sort of stuff?
Absolutely.
I want to hear from the experts.
Yes. Thank you. So you're talking. Which one of us is the expert here?
Yeah, not Ryan.
Yeah, everyone but you. No. So I remember talking to you in fall 22, Ryan, that you guys were not thrilled with the tour. It felt like a lot of long jams that I think you guys were referencing a couple minutes ago that didn't totally go a ton of different, really, interesting places. It felt like something had stopped post winter 2022. 2023, up and down, some really great stuff. The Cap Run, the part of the spring tour, I think was really strong. But by the end of it, and even as much as I loved that night two of Red Rocks overall, like I would argue the Thatch kind of it was fine. It was there. It was good. It wasn't like a mind-blowing jam. night one was very, very strange in that sort of standpoint. Like
Yeah.
it felt like by the end of the year, there wasn't, and a lot of reasons for this. The Europe tour felt like some big jams that didn't totally do a ton of stuff. Do you guys think that there's almost a sense of like a creative wall has been broken as a result of the obvious and the band, like, practicing a ton and re-engaging and, playing with someone who has new ears, and that this kind of, connects back to late 21, early 22, where the band was going through another creative breakthrough? Like, do you see this as like breakthroughs and then breakthroughs and plateaus, or like, how do you guys take away like why the jamming is so inventive? Because I feel the exact same way. Like when Jive Lee was going on, there was communication and there were ideas shared that I had not heard live from Goose in probably 24 to 30 months at this point in time. So what are your guys' thoughts on all that?
I think you kind of nailed it. I think whatever was happening at the tail end of last year impacted how they were playing the tail end of last year. Cotter coming in has absolutely, kind of, I think, reinvigorated their sense of, adventure and how much fun they're having, and taking a fresh look at a lot of songs. So yeah, I think it has a lot to do with it. And then like you said, yeah, somebody coming in with new ideas, somebody coming in with a different approach and perspective on group improv, on their particular instrument, all these things, right? And so I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's Cotter's coming in, and so they're approaching these songs more as with a newness, that hasn't been there for a while, and then that's impacting how they jam, because when they're learning all these songs, they're jamming too, right? And so I think they've been spending a lot of time in that area as well. I would love to go into detail with Cotter someday on kind of what this process has looked like at a granular level, in terms of his approach to learning songs, how much work he does on his own, and kind of how he does that. But anyway, so yeah, that's kind of my take. I think I agree with you.
One of the things for me about it is, we've heard this breakthrough, and as you just said, but one of the things that we've talked about a bit recently is this just a novelty thing, right? Like we haven't had that many shows with Cotter yet. In September, is it still going to be like this? Right? Next year, is it still going to be like this? I certainly hope so. And I think even the difference in sound between the Cap and the first 4 shows of Summer Tour leads me to believe that this is going to continue. And this isn't just like they've been practicing. And I'm assuming, July and August aren't going to be as practice heavy as the spring was for them. I'm sure they're going to take a little bit of time to rest. But based on the difference in sound between the last 4 shows and the Cap, leads me to believe that this is going to have lots of longevity, and we're going to keep seeing them evolve more. And it is like a long-term creative breakthrough, which is great. Neil, you have anything to add?
Just a couple more thoughts. I mean, one of the things doesn't even have anything to do with Cotter at all. They just had a long break. And Rick has talked about this on several occasions. Long breaks are really, really good for his creativity. It helps with his songwriting. I think, if you look back to 2021, the way they just or 2020, 2021, when they just busted out of the pandemic with just incredible changes in their playing, I think a lot of that had to do with just having a break and being able to explore things. And then that kind of leads into Cotter joining the band. And then right before all of these tours started up, they just practiced the hell out of all of these songs. And so if you go listen to the Andy Frasco interview that just came out, another thing Rick talked about is just like having Cotter around makes things feel easier. And he talks a lot about, and this is like something that like Trey talked a lot about, like way back in the day, where when you're playing jams, you don't want to be thinking about the jam. If you're thinking about the jam, you're fucking up. It's just coming through you, right?
Yeah.
And so, in that interview, Rick is talking about how with Cotter there, they feel kind of freer to allow the music to kind of flow through them instead of being intentional about what they're playing. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that here as well. So I think there's a bunch of factors in play. And I guess we're just lucky right now that it's all happening,
Right.
because I think the quality of music that's coming out the other side is the stuff that we were kind of crossing our fingers and hoping for a big chunk of 2023. And I think a bunch of folks were genuinely frustrated, saying like, where is the stuff we fell in love with in 2021 and early 2022? And I think we're actually veering back in that direction. Not to be like too fluffing, but I think that's right.
Being very careful. Your point about the ease and the not having to think about it. B, you pointed out last night during Madhuvan. I mean, we'll come back to it. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I wanted to mention this here. When Rick turns around to cue Cotter to start speeding up to go back to the reentry, Cotter was already there.
Right.
That was a really cool thing that B pointed out during the jam last night. That I was like,
yeah, I was gonna talk about it again today.
Well, we will talk about it again, but I wanted to mention it right now because it was relevant to what Neil said. And I know how much you love when I take your points.
No, I was just thinking about that too. Yeah.
Let's close out this first set here. We are still talking about a show. Give It Time. Perfect call. Second time as the first set closer. Shout out to my mom. This was the only song she really wanted to hear this weekend. And she was so happy. And I mean, song of the summer. I saw it at the Cap. It was incredible. But I will say, seeing it at an outdoor venue, at like dusk. And shout out to Loomis, who had the sound dialed in last night. You could hear everybody singing. The Cap one we saw in the like the backstage doc. We could hear them all harmonizing, all five of them. But on the stage, you could only really hear Rick and Peter. Last night you could hear everybody, and it was incredible. And love this song.
So I was right there with Lisa. I mean, literally and figuratively. We were all together down there enjoying this song. But also I came into this weekend in terms of songs that I haven't seen, mostly the new stuff. This was the one that I really, really wanted to see. This is my favorite of the new batch this year. And yeah, this song is so good. And all I thought about today when I was listening to it again, because coming out of that drive, was perfect, and it can close the set, no problem,
easy.
But this is going to be a late second set ballad that I think people are gonna love in that spot. I think this is such a beautiful song, and I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the versions that they've played so far and kind of see how it's changed. It felt that there were some subtle changes in their approach, that they kind of had slowed it down, quieted down some parts, and really kind of highlighting Rick's voice and the kind of the emotional kind of factor. Because it's a beautiful song. It's a beautifully written song. And so anyway, I'll stop there. But yeah, so psyched to see this. I was really, really happy.
Yeah, I was looking at the clock and expecting Drive, just based on the way that it was peaking and ending, that was going to ultimately end the set. And when it didn't, and they went into this, I kind of got the sensation of like, the same way I felt after the Cap version, where it just felt perfect in the slot. I would take a 30-minute version of Give It Time. That's a great call, Lisa. It felt perfect in this slot. It kind of complemented the energy and the playing of the Drive really nicely, in the sense that like you kind of want a ballad after a big jam like that. But this isn't just a ballad. This builds up in a really powerful way at the end, the way that it breaks down, all the harmonies from the guys. I don't know. I thought it was a perfect slot. This was one of the new songs I really wanted to hear this weekend. Was really happy to get it, not just to hear it, but also like the way that it's already feeling at home within the set list, and already feeling like like we're saying here, that it felt a little bit more powerful the second time. It seems like it's a bit of a challenging song to throw out there, throw it out at the debut. It's really quiet at times, so I've got to imagine there's a little bit of like hesitation on the band's part to just like, let's get this over with, let's like play through this, but like also put our hearts into it. Once you play it once and everybody knows it, then you can kind of lean into it without any sort of fears of how it's going to be accepted. And I thought it fit perfectly here. It really gave me some late 80s Grateful Dead vibes that I'm totally here for.
Yeah, this song is, like you said, Brian, it's just going to build. I think the more people who get this hook in their head, the bigger it's going to get as it goes. It reminds me a little bit of Everything Must Go, which kind of starts slow and ends huge.
Yeah.
This does pretty much the same thing, but with like a way better hook on it. It's a different animal of a song because of that hook. And I see, a shed somewhere with 12,000 people singing along with this song, like within a year, and it's going to be bananas.
That happened last night.
Oh, did it? I don't know if that really came through on the recording.
I guess I don't know if everybody knew the words. But I mean, in that setting. Yeah, you're right.
But
they know lead up. They don't know give it time yet.
Not yet. Give it time.
By the time
give it time, and we'll be there.
But no, this really does have that. I think, Brian, you were saying, Jive, you were saying that you can put this song anywhere, and I agree. It just kind of does all the things it needs to do to go in any set and any slot. And I mean, it could be an encore even. Like,
I was just thinking about it, imagine ending on that peak. It has like a hood-like quality to it and that sort of thing. But this as an opener would be great.
Well, that's a song like Silver Rising also kind of works anywhere in the show, right? Like the similar quality. Good point from Matthew Ross here. Your point about the hooks. Rick loves hooks. On the Frasco podcast, he did talk about how like Fall Out Boy. He went to the mat for Fall Out Boy because of their hooks, which is interesting.
I believe it.
But yeah, it was great. And then going into Setbreak, I think we all the only thing that we were talking about at Setbreak was Here Comes the Madhuvan. I was looking at before the show, they hadn't played Madhuvan in Colorado since Dylan in 2022. Been a little while. We were due for a big Madhuvan, hadn't been played on the tour yet. They played it.
Yeah, they did. You know what's funny about this Madhuvan? Before you all go off, because I think you guys have loads of...
Brian, why don't you start us off on this Madhuvan? Tell us what you thought about it.
Do that. Don't do that. No, I want to say this. I'd
like Neil to set the floor here. Come on.
So you said it already, Ryan. Everybody knew they were going to play this Madhuvan. This is like I'm going to do a sports analogy just for you, Ryan, just because you muted me. This is like a Nolan Ryan fastball. It is coming straight down the center of the plate, and there's nothing you can do about it. It is an incredible force. And so everybody knew this was coming. It could have been just like, it's just like the Madhuvan that we expected, and it wasn't, right? It is really, really big. Is this the greatest jam they've ever played? I'm certainly not going to crown it that on this podcast or on Twitter anytime soon. That's what I want to say about this jam. It is a multi-part monster. I love those. I think back to the other Madhuvan that you're going to want to put this next to when you compare it to other Madhuvans.
Neil, above.
Yeah, I mean, if that's where you want to put it, that's fine. But it's got a lot of really incredible qualities. And from the very beginning, you could just tell that this was going to go crazy. Like just the first few notes, like there was just like, injecting weirdness into it. And it was just like, holy crap, like this is going to be big. I also didn't say that about the drive earlier, but that drive had that same vibe. Just from the pick slide that Rick does at the very beginning, like you just knew something special was going to happen. Yeah. And then this one had that same vibe. But I'll let you guys go. I'm gonna mute myself, Ryan, just to stop myself from like interjecting. But you guys do this thing.
I think I said to B at one point, like later in the latter half of the jam, like I'm pretty sure like they walked on stage after Setbreak and they were like, yeah, we're gonna play the jam of the year right now. Like this is gonna be ridiculous. And I loved the beginning. You got Peter down on his knees, nobbing, as D would say. And it was just every time you thought it was going to be the last section of the jam, they would keep going. And it's like, oh, like here's the re-entry. Nope, we're gonna get some more really sick shit. Oh, and here's Trevor playing like he sounds like Les Claypool for a minute. Like, it's insane. I'll let you guys talk about it, then I'll interject again later, as I tend to do.
You go ahead, Brian.
Oof, that might be a mistake because I have a lot. All
We
right.
have you on because we love your long soliloquies about music.
So I'm guessing when Neil talks about the goat Madhuvan, he's talking about the Glens Falls one. That's correct.
Oh man.
Okay, I'll hang out on that island while the stock rises. Now that everybody knows that weirdness and darkness is the way to go with Madhuvan. Ryan knows this because I've incessantly texted him about it for the last 18 months at this point in time. That is one of my favorite Goose jams ever. That does something for about 4 or 5 minutes that I have forever wanted to hear this band do, and that is just to go completely off the rails into the darkness, not care about melody, not care about peak, just like, let's explore the sonic structure. Your fan base can handle it. Like, not everyone here is having a long-winded conversation through jams about their recent breakup. Like, some people are listening and some people are really engaged with the music and want to go as deep and dark and wild as you guys can get. And you hear hints about it. Like, I remember last year at Red Rocks, Ryan, we were texting each other. They had like a 30-second of Fall 94 weirdness during Hunger Site, and we freaked out, but we all knew it's coming to an end. It's got like a few more bars and then they're going to go back into Hunger Site. And I kept waiting when they just immediately dropped into it. This is another thing. Sorry, I told you this is going to take a while. This is another thing I love about what Cotter's doing with the band. All of the jams that I love from this year so far, like thinking of the drive from the Cap, thinking of the pancakes, thinking of this Madhuvan, they don't go into a peak and then figure out where to break off in a weird riff. They go to silence and they go to kind of quiet, and they allow space to build organically over a few minutes. And it's a totally different approach to jamming, and it doesn't lean into them immediately going into a peak like we heard in so many jams last year. And so I kept waiting for like all right, we got weird enough. Let's go into a Madhuvan type jam. Let's bail out. And it never happened. And it was 25, 27 minutes of unending madness that went through 5 or 6 different segments, some Bliss stuff that was absolutely beautiful, similar to like the Wisteria Lane from the night before. And then this very, very heavy, repetitive rock segment at the end that, it was the darkest and heaviest I think I've heard Goose play, at least that I can recall. The last thing I'll say, just from a contextual standpoint, I came into this year not having ever seen a 4-song second set from Fish, not having seen a 30-minute.
Oh,
a 30-minute what?
We'll never know.
What?
I don't know.
We may never know. Look at his face. He looks so excited.
I know. It's a shame.
Look at that. He looks so excited. All right. Well, he'll be back. In the meantime, while his Wi-Fi resets itself, let's talk about this Madhuvan a little bit. B?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to break the whole thing down, but yeah, I think Brian used a lot of really good adjectives. It was dark, heavy, evil. I mean, it was scary. There were parts that were a little scary.
You had a little headbang, Jeb.
And I just gotta say too, like, I mean, Trevor, it's just the sound in that venue, and it's on the tapes, and same thing in St. Louis, and we got some for the guy. He sounds so good. I don't know if anything's changed, if it's all in how it's being mixed, or if it's what's happening, but he has sounded so incredible, and his playing has always been amazing, but it was just loud and thumping, and he's dropping bombs and he's playing runs, and it's so clean. and so thick and liquidy at times, but always loud and always up front in the mix. And it has sounded incredible. The stuff that he was doing throughout this run, the stuff that he was doing in the Empress from St. Louis. I mean, he was all over this jam. I mean, when you listen to this jam, there aren't many stretches of 30 seconds or a minute where he's not doing something that you're hearing it. It's not something that's just, root notes, in the background. You're hearing what he's doing. And I know that's intentional with whatever has changed or how that continues to evolve or whatever. But that would be the one thing that I would point out as, and Brian, I was just kind of echoing your sentiments about the darkness and, manic at times and evil and heavy and all those things. And it really was amazing. And, I listened to it twice today. There's nothing in it that's even close to boring or tedious in any way to get through that. Kind of like what I was saying earlier with these long jams. And so, I mean, we'll do a little hasty rank lightning round later. So we don't need to. I don't need to rank it in the moment. But
you did rank it in the moment, though.
It is. It's definitely the best. I think it's definitely the best jam that they've played this year. I think it's the best Madhuvan. But I do agree with Neil's point of you got to be careful with this stuff sometimes because you can't get too carried away. You know what I mean? You got to let things settle and sink in and get a lot of listens under your belt. But also sometimes you kind of know where things are headed. So
I'm just saying it's been a couple years maybe since you've listened to the Raleigh Madhuvan. Like maybe you should go back and listen to that Raleigh Madhuvan. Maybe you should take Brian's advice and go listen to that Glens Falls Madhuvan. I don't know.
Ooh,
but I want to say one more
Neil. Thank you. That's good.
one more thing before I think we should pass back to Brian so he can finish his thought at least. But Jive, you were saying, Trevor just sounds different now. And I think about the last creative high point for this band, which is early 2022. Trevor's right there also. And so I think that's not a coincidence. Trevor's bass playing is incredibly important to the improvisational ability of this band. And when he's feeling confident and playing very well, this band sounds awesome. And they sound evil. Like he sparks the evil. He always has. Like you go back to those early 2022 jams, all that evil
Portland
stuff.
Echo, yeah.
Trevor, it's just oh man, that bass line that he plays in the Portland Echo it's just dark and mysterious and moody and evil, and it's just great.
And
so,
no, go ahead. But I just wanted to add one more thing there. Sorry, but sometimes hauntingly beautiful.
Yes,
that's what I was thinking today when I was listening. Is that they'll be playing dark, and what's so great about having him so up in the mix and so prominent is that you hear how sometimes sometimes some of these ideas are contrasting, but in a good way. And there are moments where within the darkness, what he's playing is actually beautiful in a dark way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that type of contrast is something that happens when they are throwing out ideas and experimenting, and offering like more patience and more space for each other. I think that you get that in a really strong way. And I think Trevor's a really like the way he's playing right now and sonically the way he sounds within these jams is part of the space that's being offered by Cotter's drum playing.
Sure. And I think one of the things, I touched on it earlier, but a lot of the bigger Madhuvans from last year, you think it's something like the Ryman, they hang out in this space. They do this space out at the beginning, but it always kind of coalesces back after a few minutes into that more just like straight up Madhuvan thing. And they kind of build from there. And I think one of the coolest things that they did last night was not that, because they even did that at the Cap, right? It started off very deconstructive and they pretty quickly came together and then, built it like a Madhuvan. And last night they didn't do that at all. And, as I said before, like every time you thought it was the reentry, it wasn't. But Brian, you were saying before your excitement, interrupted your internet connection. You went into this year something about 30 minutes.
Yeah. So going into this year, I hadn't seen a 4-song second set from Fish ever. I've seen very, very close to 4 songs that they will always throw like a 5th song Golgi on just to fuck with me. I had not seen a 30-minute jam since Coventry. So I was like, I am the person that when I go to Fish shows, they play like Alpine Night 3. And that's just like, that is my legacy.
This
so
is, by the way, this is Alpine Night 3 2022, not
2022, not 2019. Not
yeah,
2019. I thought I was going to get 2019, and then I got a very different show.
Wrong pod.
And I say this just because since this year started, I went to Mexico. I saw Eggy here in Boulder, and now I've seen Goose at Fiddler's Green. I've gotten across those 3 bands 5 30+ minute long jams. I have achieved the 30-minute jam treble. This is like winning, the EPL, the FA Cup, UEFA. Manchester City's will be revoked. So if there's any City fans out there, like just don't come into this chat. But someday soon, maybe in the next like decade, Arsenal will accomplish this, and I will be a very happy man, almost as happy as I am right now, seeing multiple 30-minute jams from my favorite bands across the first half of this year. So amazing stuff. I don't know if I get a statistical award for this, but if you're coming to Dick's, like there's almost a guarantee now that you're going to get a 30-minute jam. So you're welcome.
I hear B will be there. Rumor has it.
Just to back up, just to your point about Arsenal.
Oh boy!
Here we go.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree with you. I think once Arteta's tutelage from Guardiola has fully blossomed, perhaps Arsenal will get some of those long coveted trophies.
There's never been a greater nil draw in the history of EPL of the EPL than March 31st.
So do we have anything else? Do we have anything else to add on this Madhuvan before we move on to the second set here? Anyone else have anything they want to say? No? Amazing. All right.
I mean, I think it was like a solid 20 minutes on Madhuvan. We there's something else.
That's good.
How about that Silver Rising, huh?
Always on a sports ball. I thought Silver Rising was the perfect call right there. Yes. I felt like we were going to get a Silver Rising, but similar to we were talking about last night, drawing the comparison between the Ryman, how that went Madhuvan Silver Rising as well to open the second set. I think this works really, really well after a big jam, keeps the energy up. I did get told by the lady in front of us to sing a little bit quieter during Silver Rising, which I'm surprised doesn't happen more often. But yeah, this was great. It's Silver Rising. It's awesome.
A great slot for this. I love this song. I think you said it earlier. It could be played at any point in a set, and I think that's right. I saw it as the second song of the show at Red Rocks a couple of years ago, and being played right here, it kind of has the feel of Fish would do this thing where they'll play a huge jam and then you'll get like Lonely Trip or you'll get Mountains in the Mist. And you'll get this kind of contemplative ballad in the next slot. And it's always, I think, the right call. The thing that Silver Rising has that those songs don't have is it starts like a ballad and ends like a rock song. And so you're still keeping the energy going while giving people a chance to like take a little bit of a breather, kind of just like look to their neighbor and be like, was that as sick for you as it was for me? And then their neighbor goes, it was the greatest Madhuvan of all time. What are you talking about? It was good. And so you get all that sort of stuff, but, and then it just keeps the set flowing. It's awesome.
Yeah. Life Boy's a good call. Right there.
Yeah. That's a great one, Andrew.
Yeah. And, my thought on the Silver Rising was, the outro jam was really hot, and you got to think coming out of that Madhuvan, you're just good. You're just feeling it. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're playing a slow song to start, but like you said, then it ends like a rocker, and it's a bit more of a of just I hate to say composed solo, but it's it's the type 1 solo that doesn't veer too far off course, and so he just absolutely crushed it because everybody's feeling good at that point. Confidence is high.
Yeah, and then you got And then you got what you were waiting for. You've been talking Arrow up recently, and you got the Arrow, but not just any Arrow. It was Arrow Hollywood Nights. And B, I want you to start off here.
Okay.
talking about
First of
this.
all, I think we need to change how we look at this, or how we talk about it, because we like to say Creatures Kylie. I think we got to say Arrow Seeger. That's what I'm going to call it. And I hope that catches on. And I know this isn't the first time they've done it, so
But it's the first time you were there for it, so it might as well be
it's
the
not
first
the
time they've
last.
done it.
Yeah. So before Madhuvan started, actually, I think the question, once Peter had the guitar, we all basically said, okay, Madhuvan or Arrow, right? Which one? So then it was
planning on starting with this.
Yeah. So then, it was actually, and again, I think those opening licks of Arrow, I think it's just a great way to kind of, okay, yeah, we had Silver Rising, the big jam, they made Silver Rising, and then boom, you're just right back at it with Arrow and those openings. So I think it's just the energy just was so high, and everybody was really into this, and yeah, I'm a reborn Arrow lover. You know what I mean? Born again Arrow lover. Yeah, they're playing it really well, and I think it's one of those songs that I mean, I don't know, I can't break down the subtleties, but this is a song that feels a little bit different to me with Cotter, and so anyway, yeah, loved seeing Arrow, but Hollywood Nights.
Hollywood Nights.
Oh man, it's such a great song. We got the Hollywood Nights jam, the night before, and so yeah, and it just it's one of those covers too. It's a rocker, and you look around, and I mean everybody knows this song, and it might not be a song that people like go out of their way to listen to, but when you hear it,
yeah,
you can't help but enjoy it and sing along and just feel good. So
yeah, our good friend of the pod, Jeff Hill, had a tweet last night. I think when it started, it was like everyone better be like taking off their shirts and waving them around like helicopters right now. But I also think it was funny because I think you, D, and I realized it was Hollywood Nights before the majority of people in the venue. So like, there's always like the three of us were like, oh, and then when Rick sang the first line, like everybody was like, ah, but yeah, this song never gets old. Love the way that they, kind of blast into it coming out of a song like Arrow. And yeah, just energy was amazing. People singing along. I knew during this one, if the lady in front of me told me to stop singing, I would have been like, no.
I think it's the right call.
Yeah, you can't.
You know what's interesting about this show? It's happened so much that we stopped talking about it. But I'd say there's probably about 4,000 people at that show last night that were seeing their very first Goose show. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's on the high side. Maybe it's like 3,000. But so you need stuff like this. They're a shed band now. I think that's actually undeniable. They weren't, 6 months ago or so, but now they are. If they're playing this size of a venue in Colorado, they're playing SPAC, so on and so forth. So you need stuff like this where folks who've never seen you before, need to rage. So like Jive was saying, no matter what, when you hear this song, you feel good, and you just want to party, right? So it's a hell of a call here. One of your originals that you love and you stand by and you play the hell out of, right into a song that everybody's going to know to finish off a huge set is awesome. Like, brilliant idea.
Yeah, and also too, you know what I mean? This set is different if you get a 30-minute Madhuvan and then a 20-minute Arrow.
Right, exactly.
That maybe is not something that we'd be, drooling over. You know what I mean? So not only does it work really well for all those reasons that you mentioned, Neil, but also we did talk a lot last year about some songs and their jams and almost like it's a forced 20 minutes every time, right? This is a way, and same thing with Creatures and Kylie, you know what I mean? Love it or hate it. It is a way to have a nice pairing that helps you keep that jam fresh. right?
Mhm.
You get to play Arrow, which is a great song, but you don't necessarily have to come up with that 20 minutes or that 10 to 12 minutes of improv every time, right?
Well,
So
And speaking of, a great comment from Matthew Ross here referencing how much set 2 deviated from the written set list. So if people hadn't seen the picture that was circulating, their original plan was to go Arrow, Hollywood, Arrow, Silver Rising, Madhuvan, and then Autumn Crossing, and then Pancakes Encore, which is very interesting. I personally think that what they did was way better. But yeah, we were talking about last night, B, how if they had done Arrow Hollywood first, that doesn't hit as hard as coming after the Madhuvan, and that Madhuvan probably doesn't end up the way it did coming mid-set and coming after that Arrow and Silver Rising. So I think it was, I feel like that was the thing at Setbreak or walking on stage. They were like, yeah, we got to do Madhuvan first. This has to happen.
The point you guys made about like throwing down relatively speaking at this point in time an older established classic that everyone knows jams that then segues into a cover song that is so perfect for this band. It reminds me of the way Rock and Roll feels for Fish, or the way that like Give Me Some Lovin' or even Not Fade Away felt for the Dead, where it's tying Goose to a period of rock history before them. It's them embracing a style of music that has some influential factor on them, like Bob Seger's driving heartland rock is found in a lot of what Goose does from a songwriting standpoint, even from a jamming standpoint. So you're almost like tying them to larger rock history in a really cool way, but also, to you guys' point, with a lot of new fans there. And there were a lot of people that shouted when Peter asked on night one how many people are here for the first time. Jeff then responded, "It's working," which was really hilarious and just awesome. Like it just felt like a very arrogant in the best way move. Of just like we know what we're doing is right. And I think to your point, Neil, like they are becoming a shed band. Like I had a thought last night after the Madhuvan, I will never see an undersold show at that venue that Goose plays again. The days of finding a ton of lawn space, of half aisles empty where you can dance in the 200 level, that is gone probably next year, if not the year after, based on the way that they played here, based on their continued growth. And that move at the end of the set, it was it was expert set listing and expert kind of emotional cap to the set in a way that you really need to build up reps to be able to do that on the fly.
Yeah, and another thing, sorry, you mentioned Jeff. He had another big as seen on TV moment at the beginning of Arrow, making faces at the camera.
That was some contribution to the music. That was good.
It was great. I'm looking forward to seeing. I know a lot of the venues they're playing on this tour don't have the big screens, but I'm curious if he keeps making those faces for the webcast. So we'll find out tomorrow. And then the set ends, and it was like 63 minutes, I think, for the second set. Short, like 30 minutes until curfew. Top of my mind, I was thinking, okay, they're gonna play a giant Arcadia right here. Autumn Crossing wasn't even a thought that I had. And so when they came out and they started Travelers, like it was like, oh my God, like they're doing it.
Who did basically call Elmeg earlier in the day was this guy up there.
Hey, well, it's just they always have something in store for Colorado.
Right.
I don't know who you're calling, but I was saying like they have to play Elmeg tonight, right? Because it was like if they played Factory Fiction again, it'd be like, oh, it's another Factory Fiction. Or, I don't even know what else they could have played. But, it's like Labyrinth or, Factory Fiction or Dragonfly.
Don't put Labyrinth in that category.
Well, I think they see it that way. If you don't see it that way, it doesn't matter. The band sees it that way.
Sure.
They feel like it's a special treat that they're taking out for people when they come out to Colorado, right? So they got a small bag of tricks there of, what feels big. And this is the biggest thing they got right now is Autumn Crossing. Folks have been dying for it. It's been 3 years since they played it. almost 3 years, like 2 years and 10 months.
Yeah.
Since Fred the Festival when they played it last.
And
Travelers
you were there,
and
Neil?
Elmeg together.
That
I
one
was there.
better,
Can you
right?
believe that?
Because it was
Yeah.
the OG.
This
and
one
you
was
were there.
better. Yeah, the one at Fred was better. Yeah, no doubt.
I think they made some changes to both songs for a reason.
Yeah.
This is a
But
pretty
no,
cool stat from one of our interns in the chat. Haps Jr. completed his 6th and 7th shows this weekend and has 4 Elmex. It's pretty.
Yeah,
Colorado, man.
Pretty good.
People are just going to call that Colorado bias.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I think I have like 4 or 5 Factory Fictions, and I've only ever seen them in this state. It's the same thing. It's they just give us the goods.
Yeah.
Yep.
We appreciate your tax dollars, Ryan, because you just have to keep having to come back.
No problem.
That's right.
That's why I like Colorado. But yeah, it was really special. One of the things also they didn't have at the Fred Fest version was like that, Rick vocalizing interlude thing between the 2 songs. That was part of the EP. But yeah, it was, this is what the entire fan base has been waiting for since this EP was released in September, or whenever it came out. And so I think it was really special, whether you knew, the lore behind Autumn Crossing or not. I think everybody could just feel that it was a special moment. And I think, you get these every time they come to Colorado, as you said, like every time they come to Colorado, they do something special. And there's always a moment like that with the crowd. You had the What's Up at Red Rocks. There's just so many moments like this when they come to Colorado, where it's like a collective moment where it's whether you get it or not, like, that something special is happening. And that happened last night. And I think it was perfect. I'm really curious to see if they had, if they had the time and they had closed the second set with that, how that Pancakes encore would have gone. I feel like that would have been a weird thing.
I think that set list never had a chance of seeing the light of day.
No,
It's
no
way
way.
too ambitious.
That was an old school Coach, 2020 set list where it's like every night 3 songs get cut.
Yeah, right.
And it's just like, bro, what do you? They don't have time.
Yeah, the curfew is 11:15. You need another 45 minutes to get through that.
It would have been a short stack. I think.
Yeah.
I think we could say that. So my only thing that I would want to say, it was really cool to see the Travelers Elmeg combo. What I'll say is, Elmeg is another song where I just love how they're embracing the emotional impact of these songs, right? They've tweaked it in a way where they're accentuating that. They're happy to quiet things down and put the lyrics and Rick's voice at the forefront and the emotiveness of those things, right? And that's what I love to see. And so with the newer songs, they're coming prepackaged with that, in some cases. But I really like some of the changes that how they adapt some of these older songs to also highlight those traits and those qualities, because this is just another song it's just such a beautiful, song, and the music is gorgeous and it's powerful. And yeah, I love to see them continue to execute and make the right changes and then execute these songs in such a powerful way.
Absolutely. And some statistics. I can't speak. Some statistics for anyone who was wondering. Last Travelers before last night was June 30th, 2023 at Resonance, 53 show gap. And the last Elmeg was at the Cap, March 12th, 2023, which was an 88 show gap. So fun facts there for everybody.
All right.
No one has it. No one has it.
I like those facts.
I'm not gonna do the show gap retort. I'm not gonna do that after.
That's not what I was looking for. I don't care if you want to try to perpetuate your, wrong.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the Hasty Rank lightning round?
Let's do it. It's time.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna throw a few out.
You're gonna.
And we're gonna start with our guest every time. All right. So Brian,
It was a lightning round. Aren't you supposed to? Go fast.
Goat Madhuvan? Yes, no. True, false. However you want to do it.
I think it was.
Neil?
I think the closest.
It's a lightning round. It's a lightning round.
Well, I just want to give you the closest competitors. I think it's Raleigh and Nashville from last year, and I think that this is better than both of those.
Man, I came onto this podcast today saying I'm not going to do any hasty ranking. I'll say this: that's one of the best Madhuvans I've ever heard. It's good. It's a really good Madhuvan.
Neil said true.
Yeah, it's kind of like a really good arrow.
He doesn't want to admit it. It's
Is
kind
it
of like
the goat?
a really
No,
good arrow.
I'm not saying it's the goat today.
Okay.
Has anybody A-B'd this with Raleigh? Right, we've all listened to Raleigh a whole bunch of times, but I think I need to
I know what
do it
Raleigh
justice
sounds
and listen to both. I need to honor Raleigh Madhuvan by listening to
Fair
that
enough.
next to
like.
this.
I have a
Madhuvan.
question. Did you
Yeah.
honor the previous goat when Raleigh happened and we all immediately agreed it was the new goat at Setbreak?
Let him take his time. Let him.
I have no idea what the previous code was before that.
Was it South
To
Farms?
be honest with you. What?
Was it South Farms? Was it
No.
South Farms at that point? Are we missing one from?
No, well, I
2021?
think one that people used to really like was the one from Swansea back in the day. But like, let's not go there. We're an hour and
Ryan.
10 minutes in here.
Ryan,
Yeah.
Madhuvan, goat. I know.
Yes.
I know your answer. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, I also say yes. Here's one. And maybe this is the only one we'll do. Best 2-night run.
False.
I would say false.
I need more time to think
What's
about that.
better? Because if you're saying false, you've got to have something in mind that's better.
And
I-
mission is not the right answer.
I'm not going to say mission. I'm
Okay.
trying to think offhand. I think I would go with. Well, all right. So do more than 2-night runs count where there are two?
Good question. I thought of
Or is
that.
it just 2 consecutive shows?
You could say you could say 2 consecutive shows out of a 3 or 4 night run, not 2 different cities.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to say that like DC 22 comes to mind.
Night 2 is a little weaker.
Yeah, you don't like segues. Then I guess you have to go to Mission 21.
Oh, there.
is the
See,
last- no, but like honestly, like if maybe this is, I started listening to Goose during the pandemic, and I remember in 21, what were the 2 shows that ended like 6/18, 6/19, 21?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yep.
What where was that?
Legend Valley.
Legend Valley. That's got a
Yep.
case.
Legend Valley. Like that, and then like the 2 Fred shows, which Ryan's probably going to say actually sucked. The New York shows felt really big, even though like I don't think I'd go back and listen to those in full. The Portland, Maine shows, Atlanta had some really big moments. Mission, did I say Mission already?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
Are you from
I think
Colorado?
that my biggest critique is that there were waves to these shows where like Mission Night 2 2021 is still like that is tops for me, because regardless what happens midway through set 1, you get Arrow, Arcadia, Drive, Madhuvan, and then Factory Fiction, like these like 4 corners to a show that really hold it up as just like it flows. There's big jams everywhere. I felt like these shows last night felt great from Drive On. Night 1 felt a little bit up and down, but like when it was up, it was really high up. And so I don't know if I would necessarily go back and feel like I press play on whatever that Hot Love and the Lazy Poet, is that what that song is called? I don't
right.
know if
I
I
forgot.
press play there and then not skip anything.
Brian also doesn't like Hot Love. For anyone who wants to get the pitchforks.
Can I ask you guys well, I guess you guys should answer this before I have a lightning round question for you.
Okay, Neil.
You know what? I like what Brian said. I think back to those Portland shows from the State Theater, and that's a hell of a 2-night run right there. It's got everything. It's got the jams. It's got great set listing. I also think Mission, just the impact of the stuff they did at the Mission. You have like one night with arguably one of the best jams they've ever played, and then they released the other night for Spotify. I mean, come on, like that's a hell of a 2-night run. So, I mean, there's some good ones out there. I don't think this is that, because I don't think the first night of this run is as strong as it feels right now. I think when we get some distance from it, it's
Sure.
not going to feel that big.
I agree. And I think the biggest thing that we can take away here, though, is I don't know if there's been a stronger in multi-city, like 4-show opening stretch to this tour. Are there low points in the shows? Absolutely. But every single show, both nights in St. Louis and both nights in Colorado, have highlights. And like there are a ton of moments worth going back to in all 4 of these shows, which I think is very important because one of the things we've talked about in the past is, like Goose sometimes, can only really string together one really good set in a show, like they might write, like a set that doesn't end up landing very well, or, they might run out of steam going into night 4, in a row or something, even though it wasn't directly in a row.
Yeah.
But I think these 4 nights so far bode incredibly well for the next 16.
Yeah.
On this tour.
Okay, cool. Let me just say, sometimes when I think of Mission Arcadia, I think of Slow Ready, The Old Man's Boat, Creatures, Tumble, Nights in White Satin, White Lights, Magic Carpet Ride. Yeah,
man.
Brian's fixing it.
You forgot about that part.
I wish.
No, I think look, I just thought it was a good question, right? I don't know that I'm necessarily sold yet on that idea, but both second sets of these 2 shows were exceptional.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, each first set had a monster jam. So we very rarely get back-to-back shows where all 4 sets have no holes. It doesn't happen, right?
It only happens when you're there.
So I'd say this run is up there, definitely in the conversation.
Sure, absolutely.
I think for me, it's the best 2-nighter I've seen. But yeah, I think this was a really solid run, and I think that hopefully they'll be back to Fiddlers.
Awesome. Hopefully, I don't know if Brian is going to make it back before the end here. Hashtag Jive approved. Everybody, if you have answers to these lightning round questions, let us know in the chat. I should have said that earlier. But yeah, if you, what do we have here? Goat Madhuvan, best 2-night run. Was there a third? Or was it just those 2?
Well, Brian had one.
Brian had one.
Which I'm
let's hope he can travel through the tubes
but
of the
let's
internet.
let's hear from you guys in the chat. What do you think? Is this the Goat Madhuvan? Let's hear.
I don't think we have it. I don't think folks are ready for that yet.
I don't know. Yeah, you got to be a professional hasty ranker.
Yeah. Well, I will say this while we're waiting for Brian to come back, and maybe he doesn't make it back, and if that's the case, that's okay. Our average episode length when Brian Brinkman is on this podcast,
honestly,
is through the roof. It's far and above any others. So, it's like the epic 30-minute jams that we got from last night's show. Just go type 2 on this thing when we get Brinkman on here.
We love it. We love it. And we're back. So we opened the tour with 2 2-night runs. We're back tomorrow night in Omaha. Maybe you'll come on for the pod because you're a Nebraska man. Maybe we'll get you on again. But
yeah, I've got some good friends that are going to be at the show. And yeah, I'd be psyched if I was them coming off this. You know what I mean? I think sometimes there's this idea of, it's going to be a letdown, after Colorado. But no, I don't think so. I think I wish I was going now. You know what I mean? I think
it's not too late.
I think it's going to be good. It's too late for me. It might not be too late for you.
I did. You know what? I was when I was in the airport this morning on the way to my gate. I walked by a flight going to Omaha, and I was like, I should get on this plane. But I didn't, and now I'm back in Toronto. But luckily, it's only 5 days until Neil and I see Goose in Northlands, so that's gonna be fun. Anyway, I don't know if we're gonna get Brinkman back here, so we'll have him on again another time for his lightning round question. But thank you everybody for tuning in to this day after show, this very lengthy day after show. We'll be back on Tuesday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Eastern to talk about Omaha. We got 3 shows coming up this week as they start heading east, which is great, especially now that I'm back on East Coast time. I am very excited about the fact that the live streams will be on East Coast time. So shout out to that. Anyway, everybody enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.